has the greater good decision making briefly, helped you not feed those doubt nuts to Octi?
I would love to share some thoughts on that front there, Stoddard. And I want to let you know that I went back and replayed the song that you wrote years ago called Greater Good.
Yes.
You have a lyric in that line, my friend, which is very germane to this as well. To get your brain on a better plane, you should focus on the greater good. You're quite a writer. But what I like about that is this notion of focus, because it gets to choice. We cannot choose not to have OCD, you and I and others with OCD. We cannot choose not to have obsessions. We cannot choose to entertain those what if thoughts. In fact, the more we try not to, the harder it gets.
Yeah.
But we can choose not to indulge the compulsions, even the mental ones. It's difficult to say, I'm not going to focus on those what if questions, but we ultimately have that power. In fact, a favorite quote often attributed to Viktor Frankl: between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. We have the choice between stimulus and response, stimulus being the obsession in OCD, and response being the compulsion. We can squeeze ourselves into that with free will and say, I'm going to choose not to do it. But it's a really tough decision to make because, as I mentioned earlier, my OCD monster, Octi, if you will, presents me with a very distorted view of the world based on fear and doubt. So my decision making is between two choices in my default world with OCD: the good choice and the bad choice. I'm using air quotes here because those are the choices as they're presented by my OCD. My OCD makes a really compelling case that doing a compulsion is a good thing to do. And when I'm in the throes of an OCD obsession, and I'm guessing this is the case for you as well, no one can convince me that emotionally it doesn't seem like the right thing to do would be to do the compulsion.
Yeah.
So I learned to keep that on the table. Let's keep the good choice as defined by OCD on the table. But what if I could trump that choice with a greater good choice and make my decision making between not good and bad as presented by OCD, but between good as presented by OCD and a greater good goal? Well, what is greater good? For me, what I learned was that service and purpose are the two sides of the empowerment coin that I call greater good. When I am of service to others, I'm empowering them. When I am following pursuit of goals that build my own sense of purpose in life, I am pursuing greater good through sense of purpose. My finding over the years, experientially, not only through my own life, but through so many other lives, and yours included, and all your successes, is that given the opportunity, greater good beats good anytime. But what's required of that is that we insert ourselves into that space between stimulus and response and willfully choose greater good over good. And that, for me, in a very simplified fashion, is what choosing greater good is all about.
I love that. And I remember that really helping me, writing down good and bad and then greater good. And I find now with exposure therapy, before I did it, but I wasn't really I wasn't letting myself fully dive into it. Now I am. And the exposure response prevention techniques, all those messages that I tell myself really help me take that space so that I cannot make that good decision, but the greater good rather, and say, like, feeding the ghost, for me, feeding ghost will grow the ghost, or feeding ghost will not help my OCD condition. Like, it'll help OCD, but it won't help me.
From my outside perspective, Stoddard, your greater good includes what you're doing right now and through your songwriting that's helping other people understand what this disorder is all about.
Yeah.
And if I might turn the tables and ask you a question, do you draw motivation from that work when you're feeling like I need to choose the good compulsion? Does it sometimes help to focus on this work that you're doing to help others understand OCD?
Yeah, I mean, the last 8 years of writing, recording this has been a way of providing the purpose within my life, and being a musician, a writer. I need that. It makes me happier to be doing my goals, but it also has to do with OCD. spreading that message, and then the service to, like, people will be able to hear this and be helped. Just having that in the back of my mind has really helped me with that sort of the ego dystonic thoughts, and you know, if you're touting certain things, you'll feel like you'll want to continue doing them yourself, like cognitive dissonance. You know, if I were never speaking about OCD, it might slip through the cracks more, but because I'm speaking about how I'm working on myself, then I'm more enticed to do that. Like so yeah, for sure. And sometimes in a smaller micro scheme, you know, I put on shows sometimes where I improvise a song on the spot with like suggestions of, if it's anxiety based show, of like, what are some trigger, people laugh, they're always like, what triggers, you know, but I'm like, okay, no, I know, but like, what's a trigger? Even a general one, like, okay, the garage door won't close, but maybe a trigger that you can't stop thinking about it, you know, and then I'll improvise a song. And I find sometimes, I'm like a music creature. Like and it comes out, and I'm like, and I get the stress out, and and the ghost, I almost feel like for a moment I'm collaborating with him, but it's scary, because you're like, no, but this does not mean we're friends. You feel like you have to you're going to make a deal with this, you know, Octi or ghost, but really, and you even tell yourself, if I do this one time, I'm never going to think about it again. I'm never going to, you know, just one more time, but it's never the last time, right? It's right. So this last snippet from Slanted is about this bargaining, you know, that happens. And I do feel like that sometimes the ghost or the Octi is so smart, they make you choose something that you think is the right choice, but it's like masked, you know. It's
trap doors.
Trap doors, exactly. My musicality has helped me so much. Just get my thoughts out and look it in the eye. Look that beast in the eye, without giving in. Okay, so this is the other snippet. Here we go.
Wake up, and as long as I keep feeding
not right
the
thoughts that keep repeating, they'll just continue leading me on and on. Oh, but if I stop
what if we're not right?
the thoughts that keep rewriting, the hope that slowly sliding
In the head,
and if they fade away, I'll never take another day for granted.
I remember I was on my knees to myself saying in my 20s, like, I'll never take another day for granted if I stop, but it wasn't true. I mean, I had to do the exposure therapy. So
I guess it sort of comes back to this whole notion of what I call the uncertainty paradoxes. For so long, the bargains I would make were very similar to those bargains that your song refers to, which was trying to get rid of the disturbing thoughts. I wish I didn't have to think these disturbing thoughts. Instead of saying, I wish I had the power not to choose to be run around by these disturbing thoughts. And so the prayer, if you will, was shifted from make these thoughts go away to give me the strength and the wisdom to choose not to follow these thoughts through trapdoors that take me further into the darkness.
yes, and that's what it's all about, right? Having that space, that courage. So would you say that the more that you practice that restraint or that resistance, the stronger that muscle becomes?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. I've come to focus a lot of my work these days on the power to choose. And just for fun, I've been doing some research on ancient Stoic philosophy. I've become a big fan of Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius and Seneca and so forth, from way back when in the early days. And they had a philosophy that focused very much on sorting out in your life what is in your control and what is not in your control. Sorting that out and then focusing your life on those things that are in your control. And that works so well for me with the OCD, in that if I just remember I can't choose not to have the obsessions, but I can choose not to perform the compulsions and focus my energy on that, it makes a huge difference. So
That's true. You have that control. You that at least you have the control over it. But yeah, that's one of my RPMs messages is that I say you can't control everything, or just realize that there's so much is out of your control. You don't have to figure it all out.
Nope.
All right. Thanks so much for talking with me, and I just really appreciate it. And you've helped me so much in with your service that you provided, which helped you too. So it's good.
Absolutely.
So we're all around, right? And
It's
I appreciate,
win-win.
Yeah, it's win.
And
Yeah, exactly.
congratulations on the new work that you're doing. It's powerful. Love the new song. I love its message. I love the tune. It's catchy.
Cool.
And I think you're going to help a lot of people understand what this whole world of OCD is all about by sharing such vulnerable lyrics that get at the heart of the challenge of living with OCD. So kudos to you.
I hope so. And there's 2 songs out now under Hiccups Musical on Spotify and such.
Excellent.
But yeah, Slanted will be on there soon.
Good.
Yes. All right. Good luck with everything. And happy New Year almost. and happy health.
Thanks, Stoddard.
Right.
Same to you.
All
Good
right.
to talk to you.